Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Spiceworks Partner Webinar. My name's Ophelia with the community, and today's session is being brought to you by Vasion. We've got an expert from their team, Landon Clegg, Director of Customer Success at Vasion, ready to discuss the 7 print management tasks that you can automate right now. But I've got a few reminders before we get started. The session will be available on demand, so if you miss anything or have to step away, you'll be able to view the full presentation at your convenience after we finish. There are additional resources, so be sure to click the Docs tab to access all of the extra info about our content. We encourage you to ask Landon questions, which you can submit throughout the session using the Q&A tab, and we'll get to as many as we can. And if we don't get your question, their team will follow up with you after today. And lastly, if you want to chat with your fellow webinar friends, feel free to join in the conversation. Just a reminder, our chat does follow community guidelines, so be sure to keep things fun and professional and stick around to the end where we will announce our prize winner. So with that, I'll pass things over to you, Landon, to get started.
Thank you, Philia. I appreciate the introduction, and shout out to Andrew Dickerson, who put the Forrest Gump GIF in the chat. That actually made my morning. So thank you for that as well, Andrew. So you may be wondering, what does Vasion have to do with managing print, and why is Vasion here? So I wanted to address that at the very beginning. We have spent the past 12 plus years working with organizations, understanding the frustration that can occur when you're managing print. Too often, I personally have met with an organization that either has a brand new user who needs to open up a help desk ticket because they don't have access to the right printer, or there's the high-level executive who the one time they actually needed a print, they couldn't print, and so they make a quick call to the IT team in like agony and frustration and just really needing printing to work because printing should just always work. It's the most simple thing possible. How is it not working? And that frustration gets cast upon IT professionals. And for them, they in turn not only feel that frustration, that agony, but it can also feel often that your competence in what you're doing in your professionalism is called into question. And that's not a really fun spot to be in. Well, we at Vasion believe that printing should just work, which is why we have spent the past 12 plus years meeting and working with over 12,000 organizations to help them eliminate their print servers and deliver a highly available serverless printing infrastructure so that printing always just works. Now, the other thing that we've noticed over the years is that far too much time is spent actually managing printing itself. Who has access to the right printers, and then updating the right drivers and profiles, and we got to swap out printers, and so we got to do this, and we got to maintain and manage a server to make sure that we've got all the right security updates in place and everything else that comes associated with what is often a relatively low priority or initiative for an IT organization, but is business critical when it needs to just always work. And so today I want to talk through 7 different print management tasks that you can automate right now, starting with making sure that the right users have the right access to the right printers at the right time through automated printer deployments. Now, we believe that users should be able to have access to printers wherever they are, whenever they're there, so that they can always just print. And that should be dynamic in nature as well. You should be able to assign out printers to users based on their location, based on their Active Directory credentials or your identity provider credentials, what user they are, what groups they're associated with. Perhaps it's the host name or the MAC address of the printer, or again, simply based on the IP range within which they fall. Now, whether they're roaming from one location to another and need access to printers across separate locations, or they're entering into virtual desktop environments and they need to have access to the right printer within that session. We help organizations make sure that the correct printers are deployed to the correct users at the right time so they can always print. In addition to that, we also provide the opportunity for users to be able to self-select the printers that they have access to so that as they need printers that are close to them in proximity, they can easily go to a web page or a portal, see the printers that are closest to them, and then be able to self-select which printers they need access to, helping to mitigate not only the time spent managing and updating, maintaining GPOs and scripts that traditionally have been used to push printers out to users, but also empowering your customer base, your users, to be able to self-select and install printers so that they're not opening up help desk tickets or service tickets asking for help with getting access to the right printers. Now, once you have set these automated deployments and these rules in place, we also believe it's important to get a better understanding of the overall print environment itself. What is happening inside of your organization as it relates to print? Now, many of you may have an MPS contract, a managed print services contract in place. You're leasing printers through a dealer or a print manufacturer, and they're already billing you on a monthly basis for how much printing is taking place, how much was printed in black and white or color, what are the consumables on the toner and the ink that are taken up with that printing that's taking place. And those are all great things and things that we think should be reported on. And those are reports that we help run ourselves, right, to help people understand the costs associated with printing. But we also think it's important for you to be notified of what is occurring in relation to the devices themselves and those who are doing the printing. Meaning, do you have printers that are being printed to more than others? You certainly do, right? But how much printing is taking place on some devices versus other devices? What I have frequently seen is that many organizations have 10 plus printers that are never printed to. And so are those printers actually required? Are those assets needed to be under management, or can they be removed from the organization to help cut down on the amount of hardware or assets that are under management and the costs associated with that? What about the users or the different departments or groups or locations? How much printing are they doing, and what are their printing tendencies? Do they print predominantly in color? Do they print in black and white? Are they single-sided, double-sided? Are they printing on certain page or letter formats? Are they printing on higher end paper to certain trays versus others? Where are they printing to, and how much are they printing, and what are the costs and tendencies and everything else all tied and related into those printing environments? Being able to run reports on that kind of information allows you as an IT team to understand what is occurring and to be more strategic as you then go about asking questions internally to say, hey, are we printing to the right printers? Are there printers we can get rid of? Why are certain users printing in certain configurations in place by default? Is there something we can do to change the way that they are printing so that we can help to be more efficient as it relates to printing in general across our environment? Running those automated reports and having those sent out is a good way to be able to ask those questions. Now, speaking of printing tendencies itself, I guarantee as you start running reports and seeing how much printing is taking place across your user base or your departments or whatnot, you're going to start to notice some interesting patterns. Often what I see with organizations is you have 1 to 3 users who print significantly more than everybody else. And guess what? They like to print in color far more than anybody else. And so if you have certain configurations you want to put in place or certain rules around how printing should occur within your environment, maybe you say, our preference would be that everybody prints in black and white. Our preference would be that we print double-sided or whatever it may be. Being empowered to be able to set those configurations and have those configurations not only set by default, but also reapplied is a really powerful thing to put into place for your organization. Here at Vasion, we allow you to set those configurations and have those automatically reapplied after every time somebody prints, so that if they make a change, because that change is necessary for them within what they're trying to do for that specific job, you can have your default configurations reapplied back so that they're printing the way that is set by the organization. So that again, you're being good stewards over the print environment within your organization. Now, we've talked about 3 kind of more user-focused print management configurations or tasks that can start to be automated. I want to take just a minute and talk a little bit about security and the security around your print environment itself. Oftentimes when we meet with organizations, what they're looking to do is get rid of a print server for one of 2 reasons. Either one, they've run into the print nightmare vulnerability and they're trying their best to get away from using a print server, or 2, closely tied to that, they have a cloud initiative in place and they're saying, hey, look, we've got to get rid of our physical infrastructure and start to move to the cloud. We can't figure out how to do that. Is there something you can do to help? And that's exactly where Vasion comes into play. As mentioned at the beginning, we help eliminate print servers altogether, and we deliver a highly available serverless printing infrastructure that allows you to have direct IP printing happening within the local network of your environment while managing and maintaining printing from the cloud using our SaaS platform. Now, that does 2 things for you. 1, it keeps all your print traffic local, which means nothing is leaving your network and you're being able to stay as secure as possible that way with the information associated with those print jobs and the metadata thereof. The other is it allows you to remove all of the time associated with managing and maintaining that physical infrastructure and hand that over to us as your provider to be able to do these rolling security updates and the patching and securing and any vulnerabilities or anything that may be out there. Now, one thing I will make mention of here is we have both the ISO 27001 and SOC 2 certifications. And then we're also working towards getting our FedRAMP certification, which is something that needs to be in place in order for a federal agency to use a SaaS platform. We take security extremely seriously here at Vasion, and it's an important aspect of what you should be considering when you're thinking of print management as a whole. Now, beyond just managing and maintaining the infrastructure and turning that over to someone like Vasion, you also have to think about the printing that's happening within your local network, and is that secure as well? So something else to think about here is, do we have print jobs with confidential information that's just laying out on a printer? Odds are that's probably happened within your organization at least once. Using solutions like secure release, which enable users to send a print job to a printer, but have that job be held until the user physically goes up to the device, authenticates who they are, selects what they want to be printed out, and then chooses print there on the control panel of that multifunction device, is another way to maintain a level of security so that you don't have any confidential information that gets leaked or seen or something worse happens when it comes to your printing. So moving on from here, I want to talk about 3 other components or tasks that can be automated that you probably haven't thought as much about depending on the makeup of your organization and what you're doing. One of those is printer rules and routing. Often when we think about printing and managing print, we're thinking about the process that a user goes through itself. Okay, I hit file, print, I select the printer I'm going to print it to, off I go and collect that print job. But is there anything that can be done between when print is actually hit on the desktop device to where the job is actually released? Well, sure enough, there is. There's a lot of things that can be done. And some things that can be considered here are, what if the printer that is selected by the user is actually offline and it can't be printed to? So then the user wastes time going to the printer just to see, oh, the printer's not even on. Well, now I got to go back and I got to find another printer. What if instead of having that experience, the user could actually hit print, receive a notification that the printer they had originally selected is offline, and so the job was automatically rerouted to a separate printer, and that user is notified of that rerouting so that they can go to the correct printer to pick up the print job? What if you have a user who maybe needs to have several copies of a print job printed out and then distributed to different locations? Well, what if they could just have that print job printed out at all of those locations, or the printer that is in each one of those locations automatically, instead of having to print it out and then maybe scan it in and send it over as a PDF to someone else in another department that's at another location, and then they have to download it, and then they have to print it out, and you do that several times to make sure that print job is everywhere where it needs to be, or that information is. Well, you can do that. You can have duplicate delivery where jobs are routed to and printed out multiple times across multiple different locations, allowing those jobs to be where they need to be when they need to be there without having to have this huge manual process happen in between. Or we talked about security. What if somebody goes to print something off that has PII on it and it should never be printed in the first place? Can that be stopped even though they accidentally hit print? You bet it can. It can be stopped, and we can prevent printing from occurring if it contains information that is confidential and shouldn't be printed or exposed at all. So that's a few examples of a few rules that can be put in place as relation to print. How we can use automation to allow for greater scalability to occur or prevention to occur or what have you when you're thinking about just print itself, and how we can be more intelligent about what is occurring within the print environment. Now, another thing to think about is, what about large scale print jobs? Have you ever had the experience where you've gone to print something off and you go up and you realize, oh, this printer's running. It's actually constantly running because there's a lot of printing occurring here. And then all of a sudden, accidentally, something else kind of prints in between, and now it messes up the order of what's happened. And so you got someone, a secretary or an admin or someone who comes up and says, why is this random sheet of paper or random document in the middle of what I was just trying to print out? Well, with batch printing, you can enforce predefined groups, print out this large document in the order that you have specified, so that as you go to print out documentation, it comes in exactly as anticipated, so that when that job is collected at the printer, you don't have a user who's now reorganizing, okay, this is page one and then these go here, or this is what have you. That documentation is already printed out in the exact order that it should be, all at once, through the use of automation and batch printing. And then the last thing I want to touch on here, and we kind of mentioned this in one of the rules where we talked about notifications of jobs being rerouted or what have you, but for users, it can also be important to know, has my job actually printed out? Maybe they were the one who selected print, but somebody else was going to be the one who went to collect it. How do I know if that person even collected? Do they have to come talk to me? Or how do I know that it got printed out so that I can actually just now leave my, my cubicle, my workstation, or wherever I'm at, and actually go collect the job? Making sure that there's notifications of confirmed delivery, that yes, the job reached its destination, and yes, it has been printed out. There's another automation that you can put into place to ease the experience of printing for your user base. So those are three kind of more automation rules that you can start to think through when you're thinking about printing and saying, hey, how do we start to put more intelligence into the traditional print experience, where it's not just file, print, go collect, print job, but we can start to think more strategically about what is being printed and what rules should be applied to certain documentation, and where should things end up, and what should or shouldn't be printed, and what order should things be printed in. All as examples of saying, how can we more intelligently work and use automation to make sure that printing is as efficient and strategic as we want it to be, just like we are thinking about every other sort of product or solution that we're using within our organizations. So with that, some of our key takeaways here, we have a poll that we wanted to put out to the group to say, what of all of these kind of different automation tasks that we've highlighted here quickly today, which of those are you most interested in? We'd love to hear from you on which of those you're most interested in, and then we can maybe address one or two of those. And then after that, we have a little bit of Q&A that we wanted to jump into as well. Okay, it looks like printer deployments so far is in the lead. It looked like we had a couple in there that were taking some of the top spots there. Ophelia. Printer deployments. I saw rules and routing in there. And then there's one other one that I think had 4 or 5 votes. So.
Okay, so we can go ahead and jump into our Q&A if you're ready. We've got some good questions here.
Let's do it.
All right. So, in your experience, which of the 7 tasks typically deliver the quickest return on investment and why? And I think this will work well with the poll question that we have going. So I think your feedback would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so too. So the poll that got the most interest, the printer deployments, is the answer to that question in my mind. That's where you're going to get the quickest ROI. The reason for that is, one, often I would say the most time spent managing print, at least in my experience with working with thousands of organizations, is usually around users just submitting help desk tickets saying, hey, I need help installing a printer, or hey, I don't know where this printer is, or hey, I need to do this or do that. The automatic deployments takes care of that right off the bat, to where you don't have to even worry about whether or not those users have access to printers, because you've automatically pushed them out to them, or through the use of the self-service portal, they're able to go and easily locate and self-install printers again, so they're not bothering IT teams. We've had customers in the past who have had as many as 2,500 help desk tickets that are print related in a quarter. Take that from 2,500 to less than 10, simply because they've been able to implement the solution and educate their users on how to access the right printers at the right time, either through the self-service portal, or they've just set up automatic deployments. So again, users already just have access to the right printers. They don't even have to message or talk to IT. So I think time is the most valuable thing that we all have, and that's probably the biggest ROI, is cutting down on time spent managing print through automatic deployments.
Okay, and I see something here from Aaron coming in. He says his biggest issue is, I don't know who uses the printers. They were set up years ago, all just numbered, but nobody recorded what number went where. So we have duplicate printers and probably more than a few zombies.
Okay, yeah. So I think the automated reports would be helpful for that. So when you look at reporting and like the reporting that we have to offer, for example, you can actually see specifically which users are printing and which printers they're printing to. And then you can also run reports on the individual printers themselves and see which printers are receiving the most traffic. So if you do have some printer zombies out there, and you probably do, there's probably printers that aren't receiving any traffic at all. Running those reports will allow you to start to see that information, say, oh yeah, sure enough, printers 1, 8, 20, 25, and 27, haven't been printed to at all in the last X number of months. We could probably get rid of those. So that's where I think the reports come in handy, is being able to see exactly what's happening so you can start to make decisions.
Okay, I've got another one for you. So in printer rules and routing, how flexible is the system in adapting to unique business workflows or changing document processes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's extremely flexible. So we provide you with the ability to create all of your own rules that you would like based on the workflows that you need to set up in place for your organization. So Vasion as a whole is an automation company, and we look at printing as a business process or a workflow where information is going from one place and being printed out at a printer. And we allow you to create your own workflows as part of that printing process and establish your own rules depending on whatever your needs may be. So you have all the flexibility you need for that.
All right. And then I think I will wrap us up with this one, a security question. I know everybody's always worried about security, but what security risks are most commonly mitigated through rolling security updates, and how critical is this for companies?
Yeah, so if any of you have been exposed to Print Nightmare, which has been occurring for probably the last 2.5 years or so, you've realized that security and print servers specifically are a huge attack vector and vulnerability within an organization, with the spooler servers that was being attacked using Print Nightmare. And moving over to a SaaS platform like Vasion completely eliminates that vulnerability altogether because you're getting rid of print servers, and then allows someone like Vasion who has high security requirements in order to keep data and confidentiality in place and to assure that you as a customer are feeling safe with what we're doing through the certifications that we have in place, right? That's where the ISO 27001 certification comes into place. That's where our SOC 2 certification, soon FedRAMP, those certifications are, public exposure to say, hey, we take security very seriously, and we're willing to take a serious approach to that to remove the maintenance and management of working with internal infrastructure. We're willing to take that on and show you how serious we are by putting the certifications in place, meeting those requirements.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to throw our thank you slide back up here. And where are we? Hold on. I know where we are. There you are, Landon. Okay, so we can close us up. Do you have any final thoughts, any words of encouragement, feedback? What can you do to let our attendees know that you are right here for them?
Yeah, so you can always reach out to us if you go to vasion.com or even printalogic.com. We'd love to hear from you and love to better understand what you're looking to accomplish as it relates to print or any kind of automation initiatives you have in place. So you can schedule a demo if you want to learn more about what we talked about today and have a conversation with us. And there's a link that we'll provide you for that. Or if you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just under Landon Clegg, and then search for me on LinkedIn, or you can even shoot me an email directly if you'd like. My information's listed there, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about anything we've discussed today.
All right. So with that, I want to say thank you to Vasion and to you, Landon, for this great conversation and sharing all of your expertise. I want to thank you to our attendees for joining. And just like Landon said, there are extra resources, so be sure to click that Docs tab where you can also schedule a demo, and you can also reach out to him personally to coordinate and follow up about your specific needs. The entire presentation is also going to be available on demand, so you'll be able to review the presentation after we finish. The Q&A will also follow up with you there. So if their team didn't get to your questions in this session, they will follow up with you. And then lastly, check the chat. We are announcing our prize winner. So congrats to the lucky recipient. I will be in touch with you soon in the community. And with that, I want to say stay safe and keep it spicy. Have a great day, everyone.